picture this, okay. You are standing by a window on a rainy autumn afternoon.
Sounds peaceful enough.
Right. But a classmate of yours is standing outside in the rain. And suddenly, he looks right at you, winds up, and just spits directly at your face.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's right.
And without even thinking, you instantly step back. Your shoulders tense up, your eyes squeeze shut.
Total panic mode.
Exactly.
Huh.
But a split second later, your conscious brain catches up and realizes something pretty crucial. The glass window is closed.
Of course.
Yeah. There was like zero actual threat. And your classmate just bursts out laughing, mocking you for flinching.
Which hurts the pride a bit.
Oh, absolutely. Your pride is wounded. So you tell him to do it again, swearing that this time, you will not blink. You brace yourself, you stare him down, he spits again, and, well, you blink again.
You can't help it.
You really can't. Your body completely overrides your conscious commands. So welcome to the deep dive, everyone. It is so great to have you with us today as we explore what happens when the control panel of our own bodies just completely locks us out.
It's a great topic because we carry this this very comforting illusion that we are the conscious captains steering the ships of our physical bodies,
Yeah, like we're totally in charge.
Right. We tell our hands to move and they move, but moments like that flinch at the window, they completely shatter the illusion.
They really do.
So today we are stepping into this fascinating exploration of that specific biological disconnect, and we're using it to unpack an excerpt from a spiritual and philosophical text by an author named Su Feng.
Translated by Kung Long and Alien, I believe.
Yes, exactly. And the text has a rather massive title. It's called There is a Supernatural Soul in the Universe, 40 Evidence Proving the Existence of the Greatest Creator.
Yeah, that is an ambitious title. And when you hear something like that claiming 40 pieces of evidence for a greatest creator, you might brace yourself for this dense lecture on, like, cosmology or the Big Bang.
Or the intricate physics of black holes or something.
Exactly. But the author's argument doesn't start in the cosmos at all. It starts exactly where we just started, with that incredibly mundane, slightly humiliating schoolyard prank.
Because that's a true story, right?
Yeah, the author uses that exact story from their own life. It was a rainy day in 1980 at the Geological Technical School of Zhangjiakou.
Okay.
And a classmate named Cheng Hongfu pulled that exact stunt. The author tried to override their own reflex, absolutely determined not to flinch, even if Cheng, as the text actually puts it, spat blood at him.
Wow, that's graphic.
Right, but the eyes slammed shut involuntarily every single time.
What's fascinating here is how the author grounds the absolute largest question imaginable, the existence of a divine architect in this undeniable, everyday physical experience.
It's super relatable.
It is. But before we unpack the actual mechanics of that argument, it's important to lay down the context of the text itself. The author invites the reader into a framework called Lifechanyuan.
Lifechanyuan.
Right. And this isn't just a physical place, it's more of a spiritual community and a philosophical curriculum. The stated goal of studying within this framework is to begin a new life, grow your spirituality, and ultimately transcend the standard limitations of human nature.
And conventional ethics, too, I think.
Yes, exactly.
And the core premise we're really zeroing in on today is the author's assertion that there is a supernatural power fundamentally controlling the universe, human fate, the birth and death of everything.
Right.
The text argues that fate is inescapable, precisely because it's prearranged by a higher power, which makes it totally impossible for humans to truly grasp or control it.
Now, obviously, we are treading into the realm of profound spiritual and philosophical argumentation here, so we should set some ground rules.
Definitely.
Our mission today for you, the listener, is not to debate theology or take a side or endorse these specific viewpoints.
Right, we're just reporting.
Exactly. Our goal is to impartially unpack the fascinating step-by-step logic this author uses. We want to look at how they take basic observable biology and try to construct this massive case for the divine.
So let's dive right into that biology, because the author's failure to keep their eyes open at the window is something everyone knows. It instantly reminds me of sitting in a movie theater with 3D glasses on.
Oh, that's a perfect example.
Right. Like, you paid for the ticket, you're sitting in a velvet chair, you know with absolute logical certainty that the giant dinosaur lunging out of the screen is just a trick of light.
It's just plastic glasses and projection.
Exactly. But the second that T-Rex snaps its jaws toward your face, you flinch, you spill your popcorn. Your conscious mind is literally screaming that you are safe. but your physical body completely ignores you.
It initiates evasive maneuvers anyway.
Yes.
Well, the author notes that they later took physiology and psychology classes and learned the actual scientific term for this exact mechanism.
The conditioned reflex.
Yes, the conditioned reflex. And the text spends time laying out what is happening beneath the surface. When that 3D dinosaur lunges, or when Cheng Hongfu spits at the window, your visual cortex registers an object rapidly expanding in your field of vision.
Which is biologically a very bad sign.
Exactly. The geometry of an incoming projectile is a universal danger cue. So before your logical prefrontal cortex can process the context, like the fact that there's a window in the way your subconscious survival circuitry fires a danger signal straight to your motor neurons,
The amygdala sounds the
and
alarm.
your eyelids snap shut.
So the body acts before the brain is even copied on the email.
That's a great way to put it.
And the author points out the sheer lack of autonomy in that moment. You are fully aware of the environment. The glass is there. There is no physical danger. You literally declare war on your own reflexes and you lose.
Every single time. And what is brilliant about the author's rhetorical approach is how they take this small, slightly embarrassing moment of biological automation and make it the foundational block for a grander philosophy.
Right, they start small.
Yeah, they establish that there's this profound disconnect between what we know and how we react. And from there, the text begins to expand the scope.
Because it's not just about physical objects flying in our faces. The text quickly brings up the most famous example of a conditioned reflex in scientific history. Pavlov's dogs.
Oh, sure. Classic.
We all know the basics, right? A bell rings, the dogs are fed. Eventually, just the sound of the bell makes the dogs physically salivate, even when there's no meat.
Right.
Okay, let's unpack this because we're a pretty sophisticated audience here. It's one thing to demonstrate that you can hack an animal's glandular system with a bell. But how does the author take that basic trick and apply it to complex human psychology?
Well, they do it by pulling in this masterful historical and literary example to bridge the gap.
Oh, right, the cow story.
Yes. The author references a famous chapter titled Drinking Wine and Rating the Heroes from the classic Chinese novel Romance of the Three Kingdoms.
I remember reading this part in the text.
Yeah, it features a story told by the warlord Cao Cao about a desperate military campaign against a rival named Zhang Xu.
And the situation for Cao Cao's army was dire. Right. They were on this grueling march, the heat was unbearable, and they had completely run out of water.
They were physically shutting down.
Morale wasn't just low. The army was on the verge of total collapse from dehydration.
Exactly. Cao Cao realizes that if his men stop marching, they die. He needs a way to instantly revive them, but he has literally no water.
So what does he do?
He employs a brilliant piece of psychological manipulation. He points his riding whip out toward the empty horizon and shouts to his parched troops, "There is a plum grove ahead."
Wow. And the physiological reaction is instantaneous. The text highlights how the mere spoken word plum and the soldiers imagining that intensely sour taste of green plums caused their salivary glands to kick into overdrive.
Right, their mouths watered so much that it temporarily cured their dry mouths. It gave them just enough physical relief to keep marching forward.
That is wild.
It is, and the author is using this to show the evolution of the conditioned reflex. We moved from a physical flinch at a physical fret to a dog reacting to a physical sound, and now to a human body physically reacting to an abstract thought.
So the word plum acted exactly like Pavlov's bell.
Exactly. The concept of the fruit triggered the exact same hydrating glandular response as physically biting into the fruit itself.
Okay, so the connection between the abstract mind and the physical body is totally established, but then the author just hits the accelerator.
You really do.
The text starts listing out all these rapid-fire examples from across nature to show how universal this biological automation really is. Like, they mention how if you poke a crawling caterpillar with a stick, it immediately curls up into a tight circle.
Yep.
They talk about the mimosa plant, the sensitive plant, which physically folds its leaves inward the second you brush against it. And they even bring up the abnormal behaviors animals exhibit right before an earthquake strikes.
The text is building this massive catalog of involuntary responses. And if we look at the biology of those examples, it reinforces the author's point about our lack of conscious control.
How so?
Well, when a caterpillar curls up, that's a behavior called thigmotaxis. It's a hardwired defensive posture. And when you touch a mimosa plant, you trigger a rapid drop in internal cell water pressure called turgor pressure at the base of the leaf.
So it's not thinking about it.
Not at all. It's like instantly letting the air out of a microscopic balloon. The physical touch mechanically triggers a chemical release that deflates the cells.
Wow. So from insects to plants,
Mhm.
life is utterly dependent on these automatic programs.
Yes.
And then the text swings the camera back to humans, listing out all these everyday things we experience but barely even analyze.
Like what?
Well, they mention the palpitation of your heart when you hear a sudden sound in the middle of the night,
Yeah.
or the instant contraction of your muscles if you suddenly notice a snake in the grass, sneezes caused by a speck of dust.
Yeah.
They even include sexual arousal, the involuntary physical changes when watching pornographic videos. And on the emotional side, they note the flush of your face when thinking about an enemy, or the spontaneous shivering of your body when you're gripped by tension or fear.
It's a very comprehensive list.
It is, but wait, hold on. I understand grouping the caterpillar and the plant, but looking at the human examples, the author seems to be casting an incredibly wide net.
They are.
Are we really supposed to equate a mechanical sneeze with getting physically angry at the memory of a rival? I mean, a sneeze is just your trigeminal nerve sensing dust and forcing air out.
It's plumbing, basically.
Right. But getting flushed over an enemy requires memory, social context, ego, complex psychology. Why does the text lump purely mechanical issues in with highly complex emotional triggers?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture from the author's philosophical standpoint, the distinction between a mechanical trigger and a complex psychological trigger is basically irrelevant.
Irrelevant. Why?
Because the end result is identical. The conscious brain is bypassed. Whether your nerve is expelling an irritant or your endocrine system is dumping adrenaline to fight a rival, the mechanism operates completely without your permission.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, the text explicitly defines all of these actions across plants, animals, and humans as a mechanism for life's instinct self-protection.
Self-protection. So that is the unifying theory here. The plant folds to avoid being eaten. The eye blinks to save its vision. The sneeze expels the pathogen.
Exactly. And here is where the author makes a very deliberate pivot to set up the grand finale of their argument.
Okay, I'm ready.
The text acknowledges that some reflexes are acquired over time, like the dogs learning the bell or the soldiers knowing what a plum tastes like. But the author focuses the reader's attention specifically on the innate instinctive reflexes.
Ones we're born with.
Yes. The caterpillar doesn't have to learn to curl up. A human infant doesn't have to learn to blink at a fast-moving shadow. The author posits that these innate, perfect defense mechanisms could not possibly have been invented by the plants and animals themselves.
Which brings us to the climax of the deep dive. Here's where it gets really interesting. We've established the biological mechanism, the reflex. We've established its purpose, self-protection, and now the text takes this enormous thematic leap.
It's a big one.
If these innate reflexes serve to protect us, but they happen entirely at a subconscious level that we are locked out of, where did they come from? The text asks, point blank, who designed this?
It is the ultimate question of origins.
The author literally writes, who designed this? Who but the greatest creator? Now, for someone reading this, so what does this all mean? Because that is a jaw-dropping jump in logic.
It definitely feels sudden.
We're looking at a mimosa plant losing water pressure, and the author uses that to declare the definitive existence of a supernatural designer. How does the text justify bridging that massive gap without totally losing the reader?
Well, this raises an important question about philosophical frameworks. The author is actually leaning into one of the oldest arguments in human history. To impartially understand the author's logic here, we have to look at what philosophers call the teleological argument.
Teleological. I'm not actually familiar with that term. How does it work?
So teleology comes from the Greek word telos, which means end, purpose, or goal. The teleological argument, which is often just called the argument from design, posits that if you look at the extreme complexity, the delicate order, and the clear functional purpose of things in the natural world, it logically implies the existence of a purposeful designer.
Okay, that makes sense.
The classic analogy is the watchmaker. If you're walking on a beach and you find a pocket watch lying in the sand, you don't assume that the wind and the waves randomly tumbled some metal and glass together until it formed interlocking gears.
Right, because the watch obviously has a
Distinct purpose,
Yeah.
exactly. You look at the complexity and the clear function of keeping time, and you naturally assume there must be a watchmaker.
because purpose implies intent.
Precisely. And the author is taking that teleological framework and applying it specifically to our lack of biological autonomy. The logic the text presents goes something like this. Look at the sheer, life-saving genius of the conditioned reflex.
It's a perfect defense system.
It is. Without it, you'd go blind from flying debris, or you'd get bitten by the snake, or you'd die of thirst on a march. Yet, as the author proved at the window in Zhangjiakou, we humans, supposedly the highest, most advanced creatures on Earth, we can't even grasp or control our own basic safety protocols.
We didn't invent the flinch, and we can't stop the flinch.
We are just the unwitting beneficiaries of the flinch.
It's like we're walking around inside this highly advanced biological spacesuit, but we literally don't have the administrative password to change the core code.
That is exactly the author's point. If we were purely self-contained beings responsible for our own evolution and existence, wouldn't we have access to that source code?
You'd think so.
The text argues that because we cannot control our own biological fate, and because the protective design is so flawless and innate, there must be a super wisdom at play.
So the author concludes that a supernatural power is controlling the track of human life.
Yes. The lockout itself, our inability to keep our eyes open when someone spits at the window, is presented not as some random evolutionary quirk, but as the undeniable fingerprint of the greatest creator.
Wow, that is just a remarkable journey of thought. We started today talking about the illusion of conscious control. We traveled from a rainy schoolyard prank in the 1980s out to Pavlov's laboratory, through the thirsty marching armies of cow, down to the sudden deflation of plant cells.
It covers a lot of ground.
It really does. All to arrive at this grand argument for a supernatural soul governing the universe. There's a vast amount of material to synthesize, but the takeaway for you listening is actually surprisingly grounded.
Very practical, in a way.
Yeah. Because the next time you're sitting in a theater and your heart rate spikes at a jump scare, or your mouth waters just thinking about biting into a sour lemon, you have a completely new lens to look through.
You do.
You can view that reaction as millions of years of evolutionary trial and error, like a biological survival trait passed down from your ancestors. Or, as this text passionately suggests, you can view it as a divine protection mechanism, a profound gift of survival placed inside you by a greatest creator.
It forces a massive reframing of your relationship with your own physical form, honestly, and it leaves us with this fascinating, lingering thought, something that builds right out of the author's premise about autonomy.
What's that?
Well, if our subconscious acts instantly to protect us without even asking our permission, if our eyes squeeze shut to save our vision before our conscious brain is even aware a threat exists who really owns our reactions.
Oh, wow.
Right. Whether you believe it is the result of blind evolution over millions of years or the deliberate design of a greatest creator, it forces you to wonder. Is your deepest, truest self the part of you that consciously thinks and plans? Or is it the ancient, silent part of you that reacts fiercely and automatically to protect you before you ever even have a chance to think?